6 times before us. Not once. Not twice as a poetic doubling. 6. That number appears in 3 separate inscription sets, written by scribes who had no contact with each other, separated by centuries, using the same administrative script they used to count grain shipments and log labor gangs. Egyptian scribes had a different register for mythology. They were trained from childhood to keep the categories separate. The script on these walls is not the mythological register. It is the administrative one. The number 6 appears in a limestone corridor that has been photographed, cataloged, and restricted. The catalog number exists. The photographs exist. The restriction order exists. What does not exist is a published translation that includes the full count. You were taught that human civilization began once. The Egyptian administrative record says it began at least 7 times. We are the 7th. The scribes who carved that number knew exactly what they were counting. If suppressed ancient history is the thread you cannot stop pulling, subscribe. Every week, we read the documents that institutional archaeology decided you did not need to see. The structure that holds the primary inscription is not the building tourist's photograph. The Osirion at Abydos is the subterranean granite structure built directly behind the temple of Seti the Furin, excavated by Margaret Murray and Flinders Petrie between 1902 and 1904. Documented in Petrie's survey notes held at the Petrie Museum, University College London, under archive reference PMA WFP1 DS91. The structure is built from monolithic granite blocks, some weigh in excess of 100 tons. The architectural style does not match anything else in the New Kingdom complex surrounding it. The New Kingdom temple was built around it. The Osirion was already there. Mainstream Egyptology classifies it as a cenotaph, a symbolic tomb constructed by Seti III around 1280 BCE as a ritual structure representing the primordial mound of creation. The anomalous architectural style is described as deliberate archaism, a design choice to make a new building look older for religious effect. That is the official position. It has been the official position for over a century. The problem is the geology. The Osirion sits approximately 15 meters below the Seti I temple floor. To build it as a new structure during Seti's reign, his engineers would have needed to excavate 15 meters of accumulated sediment, construct the monolithic granite courses at the base of that excavation, and then allow the chamber to partially refill. No construction record from Seti's reign documents this excavation. No quarry record documents the transport of 100-ton granite monoliths to a subterranean build site 15 meters below grade. Seti's reign is among the most thoroughly documented in Egyptian history. His builders kept records of ramps, sledges, labor gangs, and delivery schedules across dozens of sites. At the Osirion, that apparatus is absent. What Petrie noted in his 1904 survey. In the archive, reference PMA WFP1 DS91, page 34 of his handwritten field notes, is that the sedimentation layers around the Osirion's foundation courses were consistent with deposition over a period far exceeding the New Kingdom. He used the phrase greatly antecedent accumulation. He noted it, bracketed it, and moved on without elaboration. The inscription that matters runs along the interior western wall of the Osirion's central island platform. The hieroglyphs are carved in formal Old Kingdom register style, not Seti's style, not the New Kingdom cursive visible everywhere else in his complex. Old Kingdom monumental. The same script used on the pyramid texts at Saqqara, carved roughly 1200 years before Seti's reign. When a 13th century BCE scribe wrote in an archaic style for religious effect, the result looks like a copy. This does not look like a copy. The carving depth, the determinative usage, the wear pattern on the limestone infill between granite courses, all of it is consistent with age, not imitation. not a ritual composition, not a hymn, not a decorative register, a count, carved using the administrative script with the administrative determinative into the oldest visibly anomalous structure in the most extensively documented temple complex in Egypt. The inscription directly above that numerical sequence runs across the north wall, second register. Its catalog reference in the Cairo Museum's epigraphic holdings is CEABY OSR NW2. The Egypt Exploration Society photographed the complete north wall in 1933. Those prints are held in the EES archive in London. The full register has not appeared in translated form in any public-facing Egyptological journal. The register opens with a compound glyph pairing the symbol for came before with the determinative used in Egyptian administrative texts for verified, completed historical events. This is the same determinative that appears in the Palermo stone when it records verified flood heights of the Nile for specific years. It is not the determinative for legend. It is the determinative for the documented past. What follows is a sequential description structured the way Egyptian scribes organize summaries of prior events before recording a current one. The pattern appears in tax records, labor logs, and royal annals. It means, here is what came before, in order, so that the present entry has context. The text describes each prior period using 3 consistent markers: a descriptor for the dominant characteristic of that period's builders, a geographical orientation, and a terminus marker indicating how that period ended. The terminus marker is identical in 4 of the 6 entries. It uses the root kim, the Egyptian word for the black land, combined with a directional marker indicating submersion or covering. The determinative attached is the one used for water in its destructive application, the same determinative appearing in Egyptian flood, texts describing inundation events. 2 entries carry different terminus markers. One uses the glyph combination for fire from above, with the same directional determinative. One uses a marker that does not appear elsewhere in the standard hieroglyphic corpus, classified in the EES photographic archive notes as unresolved determinative, possible regional variant. The builder descriptors are precise. Period 1, those of great measure, using the architectural determinative. Period 2, those who came from the direction of the water source, a geographical designation pointing toward equatorial Africa. Period 3, those who knew the star's fixed point, using the astronomical surveying determinative. Period 4, those who worked beneath the surface, using the underground construction determinative found in tomb-cutting administrative records. Period 5, those of the shorter count, using a diminutive scale marker. Period 6, those who remained after the burning, using the survival determinative found in military casualty records. 6 descriptions, 6 terminus markers, 1 open ledger line below them. The Egypt Exploration Society photographed the complete North Wall register in 1933. The prints are in the EES archive. The translated summary published in their 1935 bulletin covers the upper register only. The lower 2 registers, containing the sequential count and all 6 builder descriptors, are noted in the bulletin's appendix as deferred for specialist review. That review was never published. The photographs are 91 years old. The deferral stands. The geological record is not waiting for a permit. In 2018, a team led by Dr. Christopher Moore at the University of South Carolina published findings in the Journal of Geology documenting a cosmic impact event at approximately 12,800 years ago, the Younger Dryas boundary. The evidence includes a platinum-enriched layer present in sediment cores across 4 continents, spherules of melted rock consistent with an airburst or impact event, and a layer of nanodiamonds that form only under extreme pressure. The same stratum appears in sites from North America to the Middle East to sub-Saharan Africa. The event is not disputed in the geological literature. The Osirian inscription's terminus marker for 4 of 6 prior periods uses the determinative for destructive water. The Younger Dryas impact event at 12,800 years ago is associated with rapid glacial melt that raised sea levels by documented meters within decades. Coastal settlements, the kind that logically developed first along river deltas and low-lying shorelines, would have been submerged entirely. The inscription describes this using the vocabulary available to a Bronze Age scribe: water, covering, submersion. The physics underneath the metaphor is a standard entry in current paleoclimatological literature. The fifth period terminus marker, fire from above with a directional determinative, aligns with impact event signatures. An airburst large enough to produce a continental platinum layer would, from the ground, be indistinguishable from fire descending from the sky. The Egyptian determinative for fire from above is the same one used in texts describing the effects of the Thera eruption on the Egyptian delta during the New Kingdom. The scribes understood the difference between metaphorical celestial fire and documented falling destruction. They used the physical consequence determinative here. In 2007, Dr. Robert Schoch of Boston University published geological analysis of the Sphinx enclosure demonstrating water erosion patterns consistent with heavy precipitation that ended no later than 7000 BCE. In 2017, he extended that analysis to include subsurface evidence of high-energy atmospheric electrical discharge at multiple ancient sites globally, citing vitrified rock layers inconsistent with volcanic activity, with similar vitrified deposits documented at pre-dynastic Egyptian sites in the Eastern Desert. The sixth entry's terminus marker, those who remained after the burning, uses the survival determinative combined with the glyph root appearing in texts describing the aftermath of documented disasters. Partial population, changed conditions, diminished count. The scribe is not composing an origin myth. The scribe is closing a ledger entry on a prior period that ended with some people still alive. In 2019, Dr. Schoch applied for ground-penetrating radar access to the subsurface beneath the Osirian's Central Island platform, specifically to test for subterranean construction below the visible foundation courses. The application was submitted to the Egyptian Ministry of Antiquities. It was acknowledged. No permit was issued. A follow-up inquiry submitted in 2021 was listed as under administrative review. As of the recording of this video, it remains under administrative review. The instrument that could answer the question exists. The question has been formally asked. The permit has not arrived. The erasure begins before the Christian era. During the reign of Thutmose III, 18th dynasty, approximately 1450 BCE, his chief administrator, Rekhmir, oversaw a systematic review of pre-dynastic textual archives held in the temple libraries at Karnak and Abydos. The review is documented in Rekhmir's own tomb inscriptions at Thebes, visible, cataloged, and partially translated. The full lower administrative registers record an inventory of texts reclassified from the open library to the restricted priestly archive. The reclassification category used is those not for the eyes of the uninitiated. Among the reclassified categories, the inscription lists texts concerning the count of those who came before the first wearing of the double crown. Thutmose III did not burn those texts. He filed them somewhere. Only the initiated priesthood could access them. That is a more durable form of suppression than burning. The material survived. The access did not. Napoleon's Description de l'Egypte, published in its first edition between 1809 and 1828, spans 23 volumes. Volume 14 of the first edition, held complete in fewer than 20 libraries globally, with confirmed copies at the Bibliothèque Nationale de France under shelf reference FOLZ 163 and at the British Library, includes plates from the 1799 survey of the Abydos complex interior. Those plates show the Osirian's north wall lower registers. They do not appear in the second edition published from 1820. The second edition index lists the plate numbers. The plates themselves are absent. No editorial note explains the removal. The expedition's chief draftsman, Jean-Baptiste Prosper Jollois, recorded in private correspondence held in the Archives Nationales in Paris under reference AB Schatznaunsi 3312, that certain Abydos interior inscriptions were considered by the expedition's senior scholars too irregular in their implications for chronology to include in the published survey without specialist resolution. The specialist resolution was never published. The plates never reappeared. The modern gatekeeping runs through the Egyptian Supreme Council of Antiquities under the directorship of Zahi Hawass from 2002 to 2011. The permitting framework implemented during those years required independent researchers to submit proposed interpretive frameworks prior to permit approval. Any application referencing pre-dynastic advanced civilization, cyclical civilizational collapse, or numerical sequences in anomalously dated inscriptions as legitimate research categories was returned for revision. Not denied outright. Returned. Requiring the researcher to reframe the question in terms acceptable to the institutional consensus before the application would be considered. The practical effect was identical to denial, with the procedural appearance of engagement. Dr. John Anthony West submitted 3 separate permit applications for independent survey access to the Osirian interior between 2003 and 2009. Each was returned for revision. West died in 2018. No revised application was accepted. The permit was returned. It was returned again. It was returned a 3rd time. The man who asked the question died. The question remains unanswered. The inscription remains on the wall. Now, let me be clear. I am not saying that 6 prior civilizations were technologically superior to ours, or that the Egyptian scribes had access to a complete and accurate historical record of pre-dynastic events. Bronze Age scribes working from inherited oral tradition and fragmentary older texts could have miscounted, misunderstood, or collapsed multiple events into single entries. The number 6 may reflect the horizon of what their sources preserved, rather than a precise civilizational census. What I am saying is narrower and harder to set aside. The inscription exists. The administrative determinatives are not ambiguous. They have functioned the same way across 3,000 years of verified Egyptian scribal practice. The numerical sequence uses the same counting convention as grain tallies and king lists. The terminus markers use the same vocabulary as documented disaster records from the New Kingdom period. The EES photographs from 1933 are in an archive in London. The lower registers they depict have not been published in translation. The geological evidence for at least one civilizational reset event at 12,800 years ago is indexed in peer-reviewed literature. The permit to conduct subsurface survey of the Osirian is under administrative review, with no stated timeline and no assigned resolution date. The Osirian is still there, submerged to its foundation courses in Nile groundwater. The granite monoliths still weigh more than 100 tons. The lower register inscription is still carved into the north wall. The 6th line of the sequence still uses the survival determinative. The 7th line is still blank. No permit has been issued. No translation has been published. The ledger is still open.